SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Hi, welcome to Road to Lisbon, a series of podcasts to give our listeners sort of a sneak peek of topics that we'll be covering at SBC Summit happening in Lisbon from September 16th to the 18th. So it's going to be 3 whole days of networking events, panels, workshops, so you can always be one step ahead. I'm Maria Menezes, business journalist at SBC Noticias Brazil. And in today's episode, we're discussing KYC outside of the gambling industry with Bárbara Teles. She's the legal and compliance director at Stake, more specific, Latin America. But before we get into that and I spoil everything we're going to talk about, let's give a big shout out to Optimove, the #1 CRM solution in the iGaming industry. And going back to what I was saying, SBC decided to invite one of our most influential professionals in the Brazilian market. She was there in the eye of the hurricane when we started the sports betting bill in 2018. And she also participated actively in the creation of that. So that's very, very cool. And Bárbara Teles is also one of the founders of AMIG, the Women in Gaming Association in Brazil. That is quite a resume. Bárbara, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing?
Hi, Ana Maria. It's my pleasure to be here talking to you. Thank you for the SBC, for the opportunity. As you said, I am a lawyer specialized in government relations, so I've been there monitoring the gambling market since 2015, monitoring all of the legislative attempts to change. And in the last years, I've worked closely for the regulation on gambling in Brazil, promoting for a sustainable market for the expected growth. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it will be good to talk to you about this.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you for being here today. So just to give our listeners more context of what we're going to talk about, today we're covering the panel KYC lessons out of industry. What can tech teach us? So we're going to look outside of the industry a little bit to gain some knowledge as to what we can adapt ourselves to the iGaming industry. And also we're going to talk a little bit about the SBC Leaders article in which Bárbara was interviewed also by me. Bárbara, I think, first of all, what's your experience around technology within the industry? Because you work with the legal part. You work at Stake. You have also worked at Rei do Pitaco. So how is your connection to technology?
I think for the gambling industry, it is essential to understand the technology and its impacts. All of the tools, the systems, and that we have nowadays to prevent fraud, to increase the security for the users, to provide better experiences, are presented as important technology evolutions for the gambling industry. So as a lawyer, I can confess to you that I'm not the best one in technology, but I really understand the importance of it in the gambling industry. Since the beginning of my interactions with the gambling industry, I saw the intersection between compliance and digital tools. My role nowadays involving assessing the regulation in place and translating this for the tech vocabulary, I know that we have to follow some compliance standards that will be reflected directly in the systems, the tools, the APIs, the AIs that we use. So we have to enable a good experience for the customer, for the user, and also to prove that my company is 100% compliant with the regulation. I'm used to say that we don't have to be 100% compliant. We have to be 120% compliant because there are lots to comply. And this is the differential of each company. But I can see that the technology is in a constant change for the better. And we have to use this in our side to improve the industry mechanisms, to improve the security, and to use the technology on our side,
Okay, that is a very fair answer. And I cannot begin to imagine how hard it must be to translate all of the legal terms to the tech environment. It must be a really, really, really hard job. And we all appreciate it because I, from my side, know how good you are as a professional. So it makes me happy to know that they are in such good hands. And now that we have our ground covered with credentials, we can take a better look at our goal, which is to look beyond our industry and explore how we can borrow some tools and ideas from others to improve the iGaming industry. So, in your view, is there any hybrid model, maybe inspired by other industries, that has successfully combined speed, security, and compliance, which again, as you mentioned, it's more than 100% necessary and could serve in a way as a benchmark for betting operators?
You know, Ana Maria, making comparisons between industries is always difficult, especially when we are dealing with such a particular industry with so many specific rules that is gambling. Mm-hmm. But I think thinking about other good experience, we can quote the banking industry at a first instance. When we talk about speed, security, compliance, we can think about Pix, a Brazilian invention that is a role model for other countries. We are very proud of it. And this is all about security, about following the money, making it quicker for all of the parties involved. And talking specifics around KYC, I think the banking industry is still a good model to be followed. KYC models are based on the verification of the user, the monitoring of the user behavior, the monitoring of the transaction volume of each customer. So if I exceed my limit, I have to do the facial recognition again. I have to allow the transfer to be done, for example. So this involves very specific technologies that are also applied to the gambling industry. Also, it is important to prevent AML, to allow fraud detection and everything. So, in my opinion, betting operators can adopt a similar and hybrid approach based on a real-time data analytics, a risk-based KYC, and all of the procedures involved as document examination, facial recognition, system completed. The platforms can be implemented same saying what the bank industry uses nowadays, you know?
Okay, more than fair. And I think, especially in Brazil, of course, we know that the bank industry is ancient and they need to come up every time with new solutions to get ahead of fraud schemes, AML, as you mentioned. So I also believe it's a good model to sort of get inspired by. And just a quick note for our listeners about Pix. Pix has been approved to be used in the US ahead of the World Cup. Maybe we can see some changes in the future about it. Maybe Brazil will take over with methods of payment. I don't know. I'm just here to guess. Maybe to you, what are the biggest challenges when we're trying to apply those KYC solutions that were originally designed for more flexible digital platforms such as delivery apps or social networks to a highly regulated environment such as the iGaming one? And in regulated legislations, of course, we're talking about regulated markets. So what are the biggest challenges when we're trying to adapt that?
You know, Anna, there is no escape route. For a KYC mechanism to be effective, it needs to understand the environment in which it is installed. So, in Brazil, it is no different. Also, it has to understand the particularities of the sector in which it will be used. The KYC providers need to understand the particularities of the country in order to provide the most natural experience possible for the player. A quick example is the documents that we have here in Brazil. There are countless official documents here in Brazil, but only a few of them, if I'm not mistaken, like 6, are accepted in order to do the KYC in the gambling industry. So another example is the need to redo the facial recognition after some time or after specific actions and everything. So all of these are specific rules, specific regulations for the sector in Brazil. And there is no way to run a good KYC company without understanding these particularities, you know. KYC companies need to be partners with the operators when developing their products, allowing the customers to have the best possible experience while complying with all of the regulatory requirements. Compared to other sectors, the tech-first platforms has different objectives than the gambling industry requires, They optimize the user experience and the onboarding speed, sometimes skipping some traceability, deep verifications that are very needed to the gambling industry. The gambling industry, it is different since the regulation requires source of funds checks, age verification, responsible gaming obligations, preventing minors and others and everything. So KYC must be understood and adapt to provide this framework for the betting companies, adding layers to double-check documents, PEPs, sanction screening, secure data policies, assess documents license, and everything. So this is very different from the solutions made for other sectors, as it has to be handmade for the gambling industry. KYC for gambling cannot be flexible, So this is my opinion.
Okay, and since we have so many specific things that need to be taken care of, it's hard to talk about KYC without acknowledging that in countries like Brazil, and where inequality is still a pretty big issue, not everyone has access to high quality cameras or even digital infrastructure. So what should operators keep in mind when dealing with users from very diverse tech backgrounds?
I completely understand and agree with this. I think Brazil could be called as not only one country, but a lot of countries together with different cultures, as I said, different points of view, different opportunities. Not everyone has access to the best technology. I think this is a vital point to secure that you are complying with the regulation and accessing the population. This is vital. So inclusivity in compliance is not just ethical. It is also strategic, So in my opinion, operators should implement multi-channels KYC, not only biometrics and cameras and everything that can evolve and involve the customer to make the best registration would be nice. So I think this is one of the issues that the KYC supplier must improve their methods and their systems to be able to comply with the regulation, provide a good service, identify those cases, allow the user to be registered in a safe way, and allow the gambling operator to have this user in their platform in a safe way too,
I believe when it comes to tech in general, we do have to be creative. And Brazil is a country that brings creativity out of players, as you mentioned yourself, because we have so many different countries within a country. And I do believe it could have some sort of learnability, if I can put it this way, for other countries to examine that and apply to even other countries that are just as diverse as Brazil. So I do think this is a nice topic, and we are going to cover that at Bárbara's panel. However, we still need to talk a bit more about the SBC Leaders article and about the event. It's going to be amazing, and also a bit about women's movements. However, we're going to do that after a very quick ad break.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Now coming back from the very quick ad break, SBC Summit is coming. As I mentioned, it's going to be in September in Lisbon. I'm very excited to be there. And just to give our listeners sort of a sneak peek as well of the event, you guys are going to be able to read firsthand the SBC Leaders magazine. And within that magazine, you can also read the interview that I did with Bárbara, but not only Bárbara, with other 3 women from Stake Latam. And it was brought to my attention, actually, which made me really curious and to actually want to write this piece as well, that in Stake Latam, out of 5 leaderships that we have there, 4 are women. If we look back from some decades ago, would this be possible or not? So this actually made me think and made me very proud as well. So we did this interview, and Bárbara is one of those women in this space of leadership. And besides that, as we already mentioned, she's one of the founders of AMIG, so the Association for Women in the Gaming Industry. But with all of that background, with all of that knowledge, I would like to ask you a bit about the shift of movements that we've been seeing lately with women, and not only in the iGaming industry. I believe this is more of a general movement. Do you believe that women are starting to be a bit more resistant in participating in interviews or panels or whatever might be when it says that it's for women only, meaning only women participating and only for women in sort of like a niche approach, if we can say it this way? And of course, not in a bad way, but I've been seeing a lot of movements coming from women who don't want to really be included in women's only initiatives, but more of general ones. Do you believe that this is a normal movement? And if so, this is something particularly good or bad in any way?
As funny as that is, and I can be blind here, I don't think that way, I think women have a lot to add in all of the panels. So not only about women. If it is only about women, we will crush this. But we have a lot of things to add in technical themes, I agree with you that the participation, or we can say the separation of women's panel versus men's panel, is avoided by everyone. And I don't mean just for women, but lately it has been very natural movement to include women in different panels, regardless of their gender, Of course, as a woman and as AMIG, we will always fight for equal representation in panels and in events. And here I have to congratulate SBC, because always you have more women in panels. You are adding more women in the discussion. So congratulations for you, Anna, and the SBC team. So if we want to make a panel just for women, I don't see the resistance being so great either, Of course, it is not ideal. Of course, since woman has a lot of, and if not more, to add in the discussions. But what I see here is a moment in the industry when we have matured enough that there is no longer such a distinction between the role of woman and men. Of course, we are still talking about a mostly male industry. Unfortunately, we haven't yet reached the ideal world in which women will dominate. But I get so much positive feedbacks about AMIG that I'm really happy about the natural inclusion of women in discussion spaces and in spaces that used to be men only, So there is no doubt that AMIG has changed a lot of the environment, and it is all about having references and being able to show our broad knowledge and technology and in this environment that was ruled by men. But I really agree with you that the separate spaces is not the ideal. But so we have to fight to show the special, technical, and good woman that we have in this industry. And I really think that AMIG is bringing this to attention.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The work that you guys do to help women from the industry to connect with other women, but also to grow as professionals, with the workshops, free workshops that you guys host as well. It's a very nice environment. If you want to learn a bit more about it, you can just check the AMIG website. It's very nice. It's a nice initiative. You guys should definitely check that out. And what Bárbara mentioned about SBC bringing to the industry's attention more women is actually a thoughtful process. And we do have at SBC the WE initiative, so Women Empowerment Initiative. You guys can also check a bit more about that. We have a space within our websites only for that. I'm part of that myself. We have a very thorough process of bringing women to more events, of thinking a bit of ahead and just saying, oh, do we have enough women here? Is this a panel that we can bring experts from different backgrounds? So this is what we do. We just try to bring to attention, do we have equality here? And this is a nice movement. And I know the AMIG as well does that. How do you see it? As in, like, are we really that close to equality, or are we still maybe a long way from there? What do you think?
What I can really, really, really attest is that even I wasn't aware of so many women in the industry. That was a pleasant surprise, When we started to see the number of women asking to join AMIG, I remember talking to the other founders, trying to understand what was the movement and everything. So incredible. It was actually women who work in the industry or have something to do with the industry. So the number is only growing. I think we will see a lot of more women in the industry. But as optimistic as I am, I still have to be realistic. I still think that this is a mostly male industry, but I can see important female protagonism in inspiring other women to reach leadership, to speaking positions, to everything that it is involved in leaderships, When we see the number of women dealing with issues that it is important to the industry as the regulation, we see incredible skills being displayed. We see women really showing different and constructive points of view. I don't know if we are close to equality, but I can see that more women in the meetings. I can see more women in the space of discussions. I can see more women giving their opinions. I can see more women in the media. I can see more women in the panel, more women trying to understand subjects that was previously less accessible for them. So this change fills me with pride, I think the timing of AMIG's creation couldn't be more opportune, as the pre-regulation called for us to be able to promote more women and show the potential of each of them for the growth of the industry and for the industry that we are seeing nowadays. So I'm looking forward to the coming years and I hope to see more women in important space, in leadership space, and showing their best side of the professionals that they are. So AMIG's here to support this. Bárbara Teles is here to support them. So count on us, and I really expect that one day we will see this equality.
I'm very glad that we are ending this episode on such a positive note. As you guys already heard, we are here. This podcast was also made all by women, and we're just ending here. But Bárbara, thank you very much for accepting talking to us. Anaya McDonald, our producer, thank you very much as well. We're very happy that you're the one producing this episode. It makes this even more special. All women here working to bring you guys the best of the iGaming industry. We're going to see each other next. We have other Roads to Lisbon episodes coming out. So just keep an eye on that. Just check that out. And if you want to hear more about news in Brazil as well, please check SBC Noticias Brasil, our news site for news in Brazil. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily Podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.